Hello and welcome to another Intro to Programming and Database tutorial. Now I've made a little modification in the previous code that I shared with you, and that was in each one of the campuses and centers I've added the number of students. So these are all hypothetical numbers, do not portray any of the real numbers, just for the sake of this example. So we have in this particular campus 12,000 students, and in this particular campus 11,500 students. And then in the centers we have these number of students. The reason of making this modification is that instead of having these numbers hard-coded from into the campuses and centers procedures, we would now rather like to set these through the parameters. So that way we'll be able to control however many whatever value is taken from the user will going to be passed over to campuses, or whatever value is taken from the user will going to be passed over to centers. So main will going to be responsible for taking the input and then filling the campuses and centers accordingly. So for now we're going to accept in campuses two parameters. In the previous example we look into accepting one parameter. In this example we're going to be looking into accepting multiple parameters. So here we have a parameter of type integer again, which is this stud count 1 as integer, comma stud count 2 as integer. So whenever you are accepting more than one parameters, each parameter needs to have its own data type. Even though both parameters have the same data type, we cannot list like we list variables. Like when multiple variables have the same data type, you can simply list comma between them and list the data type only once. However, with parameters, each parameter needs to have its own data type defined. Of course, campuses currently has an error in the main. We know for the same reason as we learned in the last tutorial, because the campuses now need two parameters, and the campuses without a parameter does not match as the campuses with two parameters. So now let's first change this output. Then we're going to be revisiting campuses in the main and fixing that in the main. So I'm going to be adding some concatenation operators and the variable that we're going to go in between. So stud count 1 is the stud count that we're going to go for the first campus, and here's the second stud count we're going to be going for the second campus. So I simply copy pasted the line from the top row and then change the variable name. So currently this is the output that we're going to be coming out from the campuses. Now let me pass two sets of variables here. So two sets of values here for now. So let's say I pass 13,456 to be the count in the first campus, and 14,500 to be the count in the second campus. So now the error is gone because the number of values passing matches the number of values receiving, and also the data type of the passing receives the data type of the receiving. So we have to now consider both things. The number of parameters must match, and the passer and receiver must be compatible. Now let's try to run this program the way it is right now. And the first thing that it asks from us is to enter the employee count, which is like before. So we enter the employee count, and then it comes back and say, okay, the number of employees are these much, and in each one of the campuses, Kenosha campus and Racine campus, it shows the student count to what we're passing from the main. Now we're going to make the exact same modification to the center, so I'll simply copy this code. Why reinvent the wheel? And paste it right here, and I'm going to do the same to copy and paste here and over here. So we're going to be doing exactly the same thing as we did in the previous procedure. It is the same code that we just copy and pasted. As you can see over here, it's quite similar between the two procedures. That's why I copy pasted the code. They both tend to do the same thing. Now let's pass the number of center students in these centers. So we will going to be passing, let's say, 5,600 to be the first value and 4,500 to be the second value. Now let's try to run this program. Well, it will ask us for the employee count. After we are done entering the employee count, here it pretty much tells us that there are these many students in Kenosha campus, these many students in the student campus, these many students in the Lakeview Academy, and these many students in the Horizon. So these are the hard-coded values that we have passed from the main into the body of these respective campuses. So we can very well accept these inputs in variables and use those variables to pass those values over. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be declaring a variable called eCount2. Once I am done passing the college info count over the college info, that is for eCount, so I will going to use a couple of more variables, eCount2, eCount3. And now you can see I can simply list all the variables that I need separated by commas. So since I'm going to accept all the inputs from the user first, then I'm going to be passing them to the respective procedures. That's why I am declaring as many variables as I may need to store these values. Otherwise, I would have reused the variables. But in this particular case, I won't be able to do that because I want to preserve all the values from the user and then pass all the values over. So that is why I'm taking this longer approach. So eCount is the count for employee. Then eCount2, we're going to go as the first parameter of campuses. eCount3, we're going to go as the first parameter, as the second parameter of campuses. eCount4 will go as the first parameter of centers, and eCount5 we're going to go as the second parameter of centers. Now I'll take this and I'm going to paste this and make some changes. Enter student count for Kenosha campus. Now let me change the variable name. Now let me copy this and paste it. Total of 5 times. In total, there will going to be variable 3, 4, 5. Now this one will say Racine campus. This one we're going to say Lakeview Academy. And the last one we're going to say the Horizon Center. So now I am declaring 5 variables for storing different counts, and I have 5 different inputs. As the input come from the user, those input will be passed over into the respective sub-procedures, and my program will going to then display things accordingly. So now let's run this program the way it is right now. The first thing we're going to be asking will going to be the number of employees. So I enter the number of employees here. Then ask me how many students in Kenosha, how many students in Racine, how many students in Lakeview Academy, and how many students in Horizon Center. And here it goes about pretty much displaying the students in each one of the campuses and students in each one of the centers. So this pretty much is a procedure. This pretty much is a program that allows you to accept more than one parameters and pass them over between the sub-procedures. So I hope you would have enjoyed this tutorial. In next tutorial, we're going to learn a little bit more about passing more than 2 parameters and also using them to perform some calculations. I hope you would have enjoyed this tutorial. Catch you in the next one. Thank you for watching.